Another series defeat, another problem, another major setback for Sri Lanka cricket. Welcome to Around the Wickets here on ThePapare.com to talk about the Test series that has just finished and to talk about Sri Lanka's miseries being in murky waters and to also talk about England's all-round performance. I have all-rounder Farveez Maharoof next to me. Farveez, lots to talk about with regard to that third Test, but let's talk from a neutral's perspective. Keep your Sri Lankan bias aside. I know it's difficult to do that, but this series has been enthralling. It has had everything in it.
Definitely did. And looking at the way we lost the series, I mean, first game we were outplayed completely. I thought second and third Test match we actually gave a good fight, and we went down. But overall, I thought England were much more dominating in all the aspects. And when you see the hunger towards winning the game, I saw it more from the England boys than from our boys. But overall, I mean, they showed why they are in the top three of the Test Championship, and you know, it's just a bad series for us. I mean, losing to England 3-0 at home after I think more than 50 years. Yes, I think that's a bit of a sad time for Sri Lanka.
And after recently whitewashing South Africa at home 3-0, which is also a good team after all.
Yeah, they did. But what happened was with England, they were much prepared for spin, and the spinners were much better. So I thought England had done their homework before they come in, and they completely dominated every aspect.
That's true. In fact, that's what makes them the second best team now, in fact, because they were third place before this series, and now they've jumped to second place after having won this series against Sri Lanka. Remember, it's an away win, so it carries a lot of weight. Let's talk through that third Test. I mean, batting first England on a good SSC batting track. I thought Sri Lanka bowled well, especially Lakshan Sandakan with 5 for 95, his career best figures. You know, I know you want to talk about the no-ball madness that went around in that first innings, but what do you make of this bowling effort? I thought we bowled well in that first innings, didn't we?
We did. I mean, restricted them under 350 in that SSC wicket, generally, which is good to bat on the first day. I thought we fought back very well. And we had chances. I mean, where whenever England were dominating, we picked up wickets. But overall, you know, the combination what we picked, I don't agree with the Scott, as I told in the last show as well, which we had more, less options than the England boys. That's why, you know, when you take a Ben Stokes, you know, he comes in, he ducks in bounces, makes the batsman unsettled. And what happens from the other side, the spinners just keeping the batsman quiet, and eventually they're picking up wickets. That's exactly what happened. But overall, I thought, as I said, you know, England, you know, well equipped in these conditions. It's sad to say. I mean, playing in our home conditions, we should have been up in that ladder, but you know, England had all the bases covered.
Right. And what do you make of the no-ball fiasco? Twice, Sandakan to Ben Stokes got him out, but both of them were no-balls. Spinners bowling no-balls, isn't that out of the norm? I mean, we don't see it so much.
I don't think it's a reason or excuse can be given. I mean, spinners especially. On fast ball, I can understand putting an extra effort. Yes. You know, overstepping the line, but spinners, of course, it's a no-no for sure, especially when you're struggling to take wickets, and you know, you pick up a player like Ben Stokes, yes, and that's not only once, that's twice. That's a crime. You can't give any excuse for that. But overall, I thought Lakshan Sandakan bowled decent. I mean, he's a bowler. You should give some leverage, bowling a few loose deliveries with his action, with his unorthodox style. But overall, I was happy with him, the way he bowled, except for the no balls. And also Malinda Pushpakumara's batting in the second innings, that was pretty good. I mean, that showed we had the fight, but just that we aren't in that level of competing against a good side like England. So that's the difference between two teams. And overall, I thought we got better and better after the first game. Right. But it's just not good enough to compete with England.
Right. So the Malinda Pushpakumara's innings in the end, in fact, brought the margin much better than it was looking like. You said we bowled well, and I agree with that because bowling was much better, but it was eventually the batting that really let us down in these innings. I mean, after a 142 run partnership between Dimuth and Dhananjaya, that collapse was uncalled for. I mean, it's been like that, hasn't it? When the top order forms, the middle order somehow fails, and when the top order fails to do so, the middle order sort of does like a building up process, but somehow those two don't seem to be clicking together.
In the first innings, we were at 170 for 1 wicket, and we lost after that the rest of the 9 wickets for 65 runs, which is not acceptable. I mean, our batting has been a problem for a while, and I keep saying that, you know, even the last show I said, you know, if I'm having the power of making the wicket, I would have made it a batting paradise, just to get the batsmen to get their confidence before they embark on the tour to New Zealand, which is an important tour. So I mean, it's a dead rubber. We lost the series 2-0. But unfortunately, batsmen struggle. I mean, these wickets, or no batsman, even though you're on 150 not out, you'll never settle, because one ball will turn and bounce and do all sorts of things. So Batting has been a problem for a while. I mean, that's continued to have. I mean, happy to see Kusal Mendis scoring. Yeah, Kusal Mendis, good knock, under pressure. He knew his life is on the line, when it comes to his form, his performances, his place in the team. And good to see him that with a youngster, really showed, what he's made of. I mean, I was very happy with his attitude. I mean, he stopped playing the sweep shop. That's when his downfall. And, he's the foot movement, going back or coming forward, it was very impressive. And even Roshan Silva, brilliant. I mean, he shows what a good test batsman he is. Very reliable, and he's a batsman who doesn't give his wicket away easily. Even in first class cricket, he doesn't give it easy, so that showed what he's made of.
Farveez, one thing really worries me, if I'm to be brutally honest here. As a kid growing up Sri Lanka cricket after the '96 World Cup, the strides we've made in cricket and becoming, if at all, one of the best sides to compete with. Of the recent past, looking at the performances and the way we've been losing a lot, have we gone back to that pre-96 era with to be like one of those minnow sides or like those associate sides where we know we compete and we are about to lose, but we're just becoming happy with positive performances, like in this case Kusal Mendis? Is it a worrying sign for Sri Lanka cricket?
Definitely worrying sign. I mean, if you look at the recent past, we lost to Afghanistan, we lost to Bangladesh in the Asia Cup. We managed to beat South Africa at home, but we really still lost the one-day series. But we never been consistent. I mean, if you take the past couple of years, I mean, we've been happy with positive performance, series win here or there. I don't think it's good enough. Personally, I mean, being a former player, seeing the side at where they are, which is the right bottom at the moment, if I'm being brutally honest here. But overall, I mean, only the team and the management can lift themselves and come up. I mean, we've got 3 important series coming up, all 3 away, which is going to be testing conditions. But that's where your pride, your fight will everything come out. I mean, it's a team game. You should all get together and rally around and see how it goes. I mean, cricket is a funny game. You never know what's going to happen. But just that you need to be positive. You need to be positive. But I know, being a general public at the moment, it's hard to see. It's hard to see we winning a game, or at least winning a game, I think winning a series. I mean, just being happy, taking the positives. I don't think we should. It's not good enough, and I don't think we should be doing that. We should be looking for more options, different combinations if needed, and take it forward. I mean, if you had to take some hard calls, you take it. I mean, it's a game where it's always a hard call for individuals. So if you have to take it, you got to take it.
Right. So, I mean, where would you put your finger on this? I mean, I'm thinking of 3 points here. Either the way we strategize and plan out there in the field is not going well, or is there not good talent enough at all, or is there no hunger to win? I mean, when I look at teams like Afghanistan, Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, the way the players express themselves, the way they are on the field, do you see that desire, that passion to sort of win and, make sure that they're progressing as a team? Do you see that with Sri Lanka?
I mean, talking about hunger towards winning a game, I think we are lacking a bit of confidence there. Right. I mean, we definitely go to the field trying to win the game. No one try to draw a game or lose a game, but the lack of belief is what worrying me. I mean, I understand when you're losing matches, the confidence levels are down. Right. That's where the management comes in. They could give confidence to the players, give them a free hand, let them go out there and, feel themselves and be expressive. That's what you need. But overall, I thought, last few years has been the same problem has been carrying on for a while. And, only the players can speak to themselves and they can come out of this box. Right. Only they can do it.
Right. Well, one can only hope that these bunch of players who are out there representing the country, that really get back that passion and that desire to win and make things easy. In fact, bring back the good old times for Sri Lanka cricket. One last question with regard to this series, Farveez, before we move on. Your thoughts on a topic that has been debated a lot, especially in this series, umpiring errors, quite a few, weren't there?
I mean, especially the third test, there were so many decisions overturned or challenged. Yes. And I mean, it's sad to see. I mean, if it's a first-class game, the game would have been finished in 1.5 days because there's no review. It's sad to see. I mean, luckily we had the technology and all this stuff. I mean, the right decision was made at the right point. But overall, I thought the third test umpiring was pretty pathetic, if I'm being really honest to you.
Oh, then strong words there by Farveez Maharoof. He mentioned that there have to be some hard calls that have to be taken in order to bring that change into Sri Lanka cricket. One such call that has been made is there's been a new selection panel. I'm sure you guys have read the news. The old selection panel has been has been taken out and a new selection panel has been appointed. Asantha Dimel is the chairman of the selectors, and in fact Brendan Kurupu, Chaminda Mendis and Hemantha Vikramaratne are all part of the selection panel. Now what do you make of that, Farveez? Much needed change, would you say, or back to the same old techniques?
I thought something has to be changed, and it obviously has been the selection committee. I mean, you just can't blame the former selectors. I mean, they have to be blamed for a certain extent, but the players have to take the more responsibility. But I feel the new committee will do a good job, because I have worked under Asantha Dimel before when I was playing, and he's very transparent, very open, and he's a guy who takes hard decisions. So we need a person like that, and definitely I back these 4 selectors. I mean, they have a huge task ahead going towards the World Cup coming up in this month of May, June, July. So we got 3 tough tours coming up. So their first task is to pick the team for the New Zealand series, and then Australia, then South Africa. So it's not going to be easy. I mean, you just can't put the entire blame on the selectors if the players don't perform. The players have to take a bigger percentage of the blame. And I thought, you know, something has to change, and this is the first step. And hopefully, as we saw Hathur Singh saying in the press conference, there are some changes will happen. So let's wait and see. I mean, I'm very interested to see what are the options they're going to make before they embark the tour to New Zealand.
Right, so this new selection panel has things to do, and one of the first things that we'll be looking at is one of the domestic tournaments that's going on. We spoke about it last week, Farveez, the SLC Major Emerging League. SSC and Coles reached the finals of that, beating Gaul and Tamil Union in the semi-finals. And in fact, SSC won the championship. It was a 2-day format match. I mean, we spoke about the details last week. They beat Coles, SSC beat Coles in the final, which was held on the 25th and 26th at the Premadasa International Cricket Stadium, scoring 385 in their first innings and 103 in their second innings. SSC, they beat Coles on first inning points, because Coles only made 197 in their first inning. Some good performances there, some familiar names: Charith Asalanka, Sandon Virakodi, all of them among the runs, and Avishka Fernando for Coles, 35. I think, Farveez, this might be a good stepping stone for some of these fringe players who've been in and out of the squad for Sri Lanka, and I think this new selection panel can sort of look at this tournament and see, maybe get some fresh perspective.
Definitely, and I was very happy to see Charith Asalanka released from the test squad. Allowed to play in this game, and he scores a match-winning 100. So that's a good decision taken by the team, national team management, to let him go and, you know, express himself, because he's still a young boy. He needs to play more domestic games. And Sandhu Virakodi, got to speak about him. I think he scored 2 centuries before this. Right. I mean, left NCC, went to a new club, SSC, and, you know, he started scoring runs straight away, and he's happy for him. And a few other names are popping up. I mean, Shammo Shan, Avishka Fernando. Yeah, he has. Avishka Fernando, Sadir Samarikum. So all these players are in and around. So, I mean, cricket is all about runs and wickets. So you just have to, whenever you have good opportunity, you just have to perform.
There you go. So there you go. Farveez is laying it down for you, saying, take wickets, score runs, and that's your opportunity to be there in the national team and play for your country. Right. That brings us to the end of this week's Around the Wickets. But before we go, as always, going to ask you a question, a trivia question. And this week's question is, how many test wickets has Dilruwan Perera taken so far? In fact, he was the highest wicket taker in this series against England. So we're asking you, how many test wickets has he taken so far? Last week we asked you, when did Sri Lanka last beat England in a test match? And I can tell you there was one memorable victory. We beat England by 100 runs in the second test at Leeds, registering the first ever test series win in England. And the winner for that week's answer is none other than Shakil Yoonus. Congrats, Shakil, for getting that right. Farveez, thank you very much once again for being on the show and giving us your much needed insight. Until we see you again next week on another episode of Around the Wickets, it's goodbye from all of us at ThePapare.com.